All right, you've read the title. In this video, I'm going to talk through my experience interviewing around 30, 40 people. This wasn't really a job interview. It was more for a program that we're running. But high level, the questions I was asking, the thing that I was trying to filter people on was based on, what probably an interviewer would. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. I interviewed around 50 people. I mean, this is a little bit of a clickbait. There are like 30 people from colleges, and most people were from tier 3 colleges, a few from tier 2 colleges. This was the TLDR of all the interviews, looking at projects and reading through the code, quickly trying to understand how much they know and trying to gauge, is this a good developer, is this an average developer, and are they ready for a job, not ready for a job, something like that. High level context, this was for Super30, which is an on-site program we're running. The registrations are closed, so this isn't a pitch video. It's mostly just giving context of what the interviews were for. The goal of Super30 is to create value, find people, get them jobs, or make them at least good enough so that they can get a job. I have a worst case in mind for everyone, even though this is a paid on-site program. Figure things out. This is an unprofitable bet. More than money, when it comes to time commitment, I don't want to spend, 4 hours on a Monday interviewing people. But the hope is, something big comes out of this. And there's like generous refunds and filtering. Basically, the goal of this call was to make sure who's ready for a job, who's a little early, and just letting people know and refunding them if I feel they're a little early to the program right now. This is a brief of the distribution of people. Around 70% recent grads / currently in third or fourth year. As I said, most from tier 3 college, I think 1 or 2 from tier 2 colleges. Around 15% experienced folks, these people were fairly chill and, just wanted to join for the community or, hang out. And 15% literally people who just joined to, chill or, contribute to the program or hire people. Yeah, that was also a niche of people that joined. We are going to talk through the 70% folks, understand, what I was looking for when I was talking to them. These interviews were very actionable and probably very similar to, a company whenever they're looking to hire. Most interviews went like this. Before that, this is the TLDR of Super30. We're trying to make sure people are at a certain level. And this level is basically, being good at one stack, preferably the 𝗠𝘁𝗲𝗃𝗍 stack. And what does it mean to be good at the 𝗠𝘁𝗃 stack? Is that you can, start to build projects on your own. And week 20 of Code 2 is like a good checkpoint for this. So that was, my common theme throughout all of these calls. My common statement was finish till week 20 of cohort 2 before you come on site and get overwhelmed. So unless you can build projects on your own, it's a bare minimum metric before starting to interview, hire, build projects, or build advanced projects. The goal is to find people who are here and make them as good as a senior engineer, so that it's easy to get hired, or it's a very easy interview in case you get one once you get hired, or once you get an interview. This is the high level of all the talks that I did. I have a very big spreadsheet of these 30-40 talks, and as you can see, most of the chunks were this, like a chunk of 8 interviews in which it was like, let's talk again in 1 week and see where you're at. I told them to recap everything till week 20, build a project, recap everything till week 20, build a project. This person was good. I still said try it out for 15 days and then get a refund. Talk again in 1 week, talk again in 1 week. Talk about a refund tomorrow. This person was completely sure. I still said, think more for a day. It's a lot of money, and so on and so forth. This person, I was like, he has very simple projects. Let's refund. This person I already refunded. So high level, it's not a cash grab. Would have been nice if it was. It's mostly I'm just trying to see if this works or not. Cool, enough justifications. These are the 10 topics or 10 things I want to talk about. Point number 1, master of none. This is something I saw very commonly. This term that eventually started to irritate me, which was, I know the basics of 𝗠𝘁𝗃 stack. I was like, okay, tell me a bit about your experience. And this was a very common statement, basics of 𝗠𝘁𝗃 stack. So around 80% of people said this. What is basics of any language? You can look at a tutorial of 5 hours of any specific stack, Java, PHP, and say, I know the basics of this. Interviewing when you are at the basics of anything is a little early, I think, and something you should avoid. I would say don't even interview until you are comfortable in a stack, or don't complain about long internship periods with low salaries. Java guy example. So there's one guy who was saying, 𝗥𝗲𝗳𝗃𝗍𝗃, I have a internship opportunity which may convert to full time, but it's not paying me too much. It's in Java, so I don't want to join. I still said, okay, you should probably join them, and don't take this much of a risk to relocate to Noida and leave a job that you already have. But he said, no, I wanted to leave. Then I asked him, can you show me some of your projects? He did. I said, can you explain it? It was like a clone from another bootcamp he had taken, and he wasn't able to explain it. So I said again, take a week. understand this stack better, and then let's talk again. Seems like it's very easy to tell if someone hasn't built their project or can't explain very basic things. Even though I don't know Java, 3-4 questions that I asked, he wasn't able to explain, and it became fairly obvious that he's somehow copied this project, half built it. So avoid that as much as possible. If you're not able to, then that's why these probation internship periods sort of exist in companies. Small attention spans, not for you guys, for interviewers themselves. They have a list of projects to go through. They don't have the time. So, the filtering criteria sort of go down very quickly. A lot of people might say they're good at 𝗠 or can build a 𝗠 project. That's probably the first thing that the interviewer is looking at. Then they're trying to look at, okay, do you have a live project? And is the UI decentish? Or UI is good, basically, or just close the tab. And I would say most people filter out over here. I would say around only 20% of people have projects that look decent enough for the interviewer to even try to look at them. But after that, is the backend up? Is the authentication sorted? Is the authentication quick so that the person can quickly get in and look at your project? Have you deployed this yourself? Is your backend taking a lot of time? Is it on some free service? It takes $5 to get a DigitalOcean droplet. So and you learn a lot of things if you have your own VM. So don't shy away from spending 400 rupees a month on a VM. Get a VM, learn some things, experiment with it, and have your backends deployed over there. And this is just an extra thing that I added. This might be a little too much, but it's good if you have monitoring dashboards or open dashboards. An open dashboard is basically, a lot of companies have this, which shares their stats, things like how many paid users they have, how much user growth they have, how many current users they have, current hits they have, things like these. If you can build that, it's a good thing to show. Maybe this might be a little too much. Maybe the last two are like, even if you don't have them, as you can see, I would assume the number is 5% of the people are able to reach here. But, at least have authentication sorted, make sure your backend is up, UI looks decent, and, you're able to reach at least the top 5% fairly quickly. Defer the red flags as much as possible. This is red flag number 1, red flag number 2, so on and so forth. So, if your backend is not up, it is fine, but at least the first 3 should be bare minimum. If you have the 4th red flag, you're not doing authentication yourself, your authentication pipeline is really long, you're not sending out an email, you're using Clerk for authentication, it's fine. But the more deeper you go, the better. Core knowledge matters. So this just comes from this interview or this podcast that I did with this person, and he said, the interview was fairly sorted because my basics and fundamentals were fairly clear. So even though the questions were asked in Python, I was able to answer them because my fundamentals of whatever an HTTP server were fairly clear. I just applied the logic from JavaScript to Python. Most companies have substandard engineers. I don't think this is the right term, but basically engineers who have been focused on the same thing for a really long time. So, they don't have the time to upscale or learn. So it's very easy to reach their level or, know more than they do right now in this specific stack. Interview they're going to ask you really hard questions. So, it's not too difficult to know that much because most engineers in those companies are not really, learning every day. They're just spending their time coding. So it's easy to impress basically. And, you should go through this interview to see the things that he talked about and, how he was fairly confident in most of his interviews. Easy to reach a level where you know more than the interviewer. Is there a hiring shortage? Yes. Why is there? Because, good businesses will flourish and expand, but, during the COVID frenzy, whatever, a lot of companies raised and, weren't able to build good businesses out of it. It's changing now because everyone's, running out of money. So they're trying to build out good business models. And when that happens and people are profitable or they see some growth vectors is when, they hire. Good examples of such companies today are, Zepto and Zomato. I don't know what Zomato, but Zepto for sure, in the cohort I'm seeing every week, people are saying I have my interview in Zepto tomorrow and then, giving out decent offers as well. So, you just have to see what companies are growing. And today, a lot of companies that had raised at crazy valuations currently, cannot meet those valuations and don't see a clear growth vector, only see cash in the bank, which is why, they will have a submissive mindset for a while. But companies that have opened growth vectors or become profitable like Zomato will keep on hiring. So, try to look for those companies. I have a friend, I asked him this blatantly, how does hiring look at your place? He said, running out of engineers, don't have engineers, team has grown. So I was like, why is this happening for you? And why is everyone saying, okay, we are not hiring? So he said, do you know how our business is doing? I was like, yes. You know we're growing? I said, yes. So he said, as long as business is growing, so, we will need engineers. And of course, if there's a downturn, if there's a plateau, then we will not hire as much. So it's pretty much about finding companies that are doing good. 3 years ago, that was a company that was, able to raise. Today, that's probably a company that's profitable, on the verge of raising, or a company like Zomato or Zepto. Zomato being a public company whose stock is going up. Zepto being a company that is, still raising very fast. Cool. Beginner hell and clones. Yeah, just avoid these, very easy to, oh, it's a lazy afternoon, let me do Java today and, build a hello world program there and leave it on your GitHub forever. Don't stay on the sidelines, don't even do it if that's what all you're going to do. If you really like a stack, if you want to get into development, whatever stack you pick up, try to go deep in it. As I said, it's very easy to, know more than engineers working in companies because they're focused on one thing and writing business logic, while you can learn the extra innovation that has happened in that language. There might be an engineer working only in JavaScript for years in a company and building the same thing, doing CRUD applications, while you come with TypeScript experience, CI/CD experience, whatever, and charm them away. If you're committed to a stack, make sure you understand it well. At least 50% agreed that they can't code themselves. Amongst the interviews that I took, people were thankfully fairly honest and very easy for me to tell also, but they also committed themselves. Ki, haan, theek hai, I am one of those people who follows clones. So, all of these people I said, please build a project on your own for the next 1 week and then, let's talk again. I don't think it's too difficult to break out of this cycle if you, have the motivation. I think people just lose motivation and it's very hard to, get distracted today. All right, good versus bad, no in the middle. I saw some really bad projects, you could look at them and tell, ki, this is a 10,000 rupee freelancing project for whatever, a restaurant close by. And then there were decent-ish projects, but I think there's no in the middle anymore. If you see a decent-ish project or a really bad project, it's a reject. And if you see a good project, it's whatever, let's talk to this guy. So, there is no in the middle. Don't build average projects either. Either build a good project or don't build at all, because, if you build an average project, is as good as building, a very bad project with no backend or whatever. So, try to be here. These are some examples of good projects. Don't build 𝗥𝗲𝗳𝗀𝗀𝗀 completely, but you look at their landing page. The initial filtering criteria, you'll go over like this if you're building UIs like this. So at the very least, learn this. It's a very, learnable skill and also underrated skill to have at least your landing page sorted so the people go to step 2, which is, logging into your website. Communication mic and being able to explain yourself. So this is some people that were really smart, which, since I was giving them the time, I realized, but an interviewer won't give you the time. So your mic is choppy, accent is not good, you're not able to explain your code well. I'll give a small example, someone from Hyderabad who built something I asked for in the Solana hackathon and, showed me the demo. I was fairly happy, but then wasn't able to explain the code. Even though he wrote the code, he understood everything. 5 times I asked and 6 times I was able to understand that he was able to, but an interviewer won't give you, that much benefit of the doubt. So this is a fairly learnable skill. It's much easier than coding, right? Communicating. So make sure you're able to communicate your projects and, the interviewer doesn't have doubts ki, he might not have written this code, even though you have written that code. They say fake it till you make it. If you've written a project, then you don't even have to fake it. Just make it. Make sure, they can tell that you have written this code and you understand everything there. Don't make the interviewer guess what you know. It should be blatant, on their face, to on point, listen more, talk less. And yeah, one guy took like 4 tries to explain a very good project that he built for one of our hackathons. But no one's giving you 4 tries to explain the same code. Blogs and reading lists. Again, this comes from one person who was like, can't really tell if he's good or not. But then I looked at his whatever portfolio where he had, the list of things that he's reading. I also have a to-do list or, list of things that I'm learning/reading. It's a good thing to maintain. It shows interest. This person has interest. For example, this guy has interest in Solana and Rust. So then I had topics to talk to him about. Tell me more about this. These are niche topics. So very easy to tell this person is actually interested in core computer science, and the blogs that he's writing are not, how to create a Tailwind, whatever landing page, or, how to create an Express app V1. There are hard niche projects or blogs to read about. So interesting reads, which tells you, a lot about the project. Basically, if this person is interviewing for a Solana company, there's very decent proof of work over here. And I was talking to 𝗟𝗲𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀, who's also, someone who sort of works with us. So he was thinking of releasing something in our newsletter. So we were discussing what it should be. And, the long story short over there was, there's no point of rewriting something that GPT does better. So, hard concepts explained in a more readable fashion is the best type of blogs that you can write. Good examples might be, sending multiple transactions in a single block hash using Rust. This is also a fairly simple project. But, at the very least, it's in Rust and not JavaScript. This was an interesting read, how data structures perform operations if you want to read. So very easy to tell if, this person is interested in learning themselves and is not doing it just for, let's build a whatever YouTube clone, right? Cool. Design matters. Again, this has been a learning for me, but now that everyone can, it's easier to code. It's easy to differentiate people based on, their initial landing page or design. So just spend more time here. A lot of people hiring for, design plus developer. This is something I was bullish on for a while, but now more bullish on. If you can cut down on 2 roles for a company, you can be the designer and the developer, and it's just a very easy hire because you're doing 2 people's job. And there's no context switching between a designer and developer. You're pretty much handling everything. I don't know if it is a learnable skill. I would guess it is. You just have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and stop being a little adamant about, oh, I will only write backend code, and spend some time. I'm sure writing front-end code is easy, but designing may take developers get a little lazy. Do it. I think it is an underrated skill. It'll become useful and more important as time goes by. Most people get chucked off of this stage, right? 85 to 25% drop happens here. So make sure if you're spending maybe let's say 20 hours a week doing backend, spend 5 hours just learning about design. There are tools out there like 𝗥𝗲𝗳𝗲𝗏 that will help you out, but a little bit go out of your comfort zone, learn about Framer, and make your landing pages pretty, or just the complete project pretty. All right, last thing, the stacks that I'm bullish on. I can create a much longer list if I'm being honest. Everywhere there's a job, but high level 𝗏, React Native and Flutter, Go, DevOps, Rust, Solana development, and Python. Reason I've kept this is because now I'm spending a lot of time understanding where there are jobs and we can refer people. So this just feels like the top of the stack for me. First 2 because every company needs a website. Second one because some companies need mobile apps, but not a lot of people can build them. The learning curve here is much higher than here, and companies prefer React Native or Flutter because they want to get off the ground. That said, there are companies that work directly on native code. It's also not the worst idea to learn native app development as well. If you know native app development well, it'll help you if you're using these higher level APIs. Go and DevOps because most DevOps projects are written in Go. Companies do hire DevOps engineers solely, and also there are a lot of companies that are DevOps projects, open source or otherwise, and most of these projects are written in Golang. Also, Golang is some companies will create their backends in Golang as well, and it's a niche skill where there aren't a lot of people and hence easy to hire. Rust and Solana development again for the same reason, and also Solana is thankfully bullish on India, give out a lot of grants, a lot of bigger grants, which leads to other people getting hired. So that's why Rust and Solana development, I'm sure you can find EVM companies as well. Python because every company and their mother is getting funded, as most startups are getting funded right now by YC or otherwise are AI startups. I think 69 startups in the YC batch this one are like AI startups, and most of them, since they are using a lot of Python libraries, are going to have their backends in Python as well. So when I say Python here, I don't really mean TensorFlow or core ML libraries, even though even better if you can do that. But what I mean here is Flask, what is that called, Fast API, Django. So you can at least build the backends and understand the project of these the code of these projects, which will of course have backends, and they're just preferring to write it in Python because all of their other ML code is also in Python. Special mentions if you are really looking for a job, and this comes from again talking to a lot of people in colleges or otherwise. These are the stacks companies hire for because 30% of the internet is written in PHP. A lot of old companies have Java developers and Java code base, so it will stay there. They need someone to maintain it or write more code as well. And ASP.NET is just another such stack I've seen very popularly in companies, smaller service-based companies, things like these. Cool. That's a brief. That's all I wanted to talk about. TLDR of the video is oh god, it's so hard to find good engineers, and even with so much filtering and so many people with so much motivation paying for an on-site Noida campus, it's so hard to find good engineers. But thankfully, I don't think there's too much to do as long as you have the right motivation for a few months and you're really pushing yourself to build. You can cross the chasm fairly quickly is what I think, and that's sort of what the TLDR of the video was. That's pretty much it, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.